Welcome to the session. This is all about your board demands ROI. We've heard all this great stuff about AI out there, but it's got to make money for the business. That's what we're here for. And we see a lot of companies that are struggling with that. So that's what we're going to try to talk about today. I'll introduce myself first. Mike Finley. I'm the CTO for AnswerRocket. Spent about half my career building out large enterprise systems for retail management, gas stations, convenience stores, restaurants, that sort of thing. The second half of my career has been all about AI and bringing about commercialization. I was way too early to be commercializing AI at the beginning of that effort, but in the last 5 years or so, it's become a reality, and now we've got the logos and the projects and the demonstrations to show it.
Hi there. My name is Ed Dobbles, and I'm the Chief Analytics Officer for Overproof. Before joining Overproof, I worked for a series of large corporations: Best Buy, Albertsons, H&R Block, Diageo. You might not know Diageo, but it's Crown Royal, Captain Morgan, Smirnoff, Don Julio, about 20% of your liquor cabinet. It's not a bad job. And over those 25 years that I've worked in the corporate world, one of the things that I saw consistently is every organization I worked for talked about the goal of becoming a data-driven organization. And while they all had that goal, they all struggled with it. And because I saw that struggle, when I had a chance to join an organization to flip over to the supplier side with Overproof and help people deliver on that value, I jumped at the opportunity because I think we can do some great things. And we're going to talk about that today. So let's talk about AI. So one of the things I think about AI, when I talk to all of my friends in my network, and they all know I'm a proponent of AI, they tell me a very similar story, and it's not very pretty. So everyone, from your board all the way down to your managers and analysts, have seen all the stories about what AI is going to do for you. They've read the headlines. AI is going to double your productivity. AI is going to grow your profit. AI is going to magically grow your hair back. AI is going to do everything. And what happens under that circumstance is people start acting. And I think about 3 different cases in that scenario. The IT organization immediately goes out and starts a very IT thorough review of all AI technology. And I'm confident sometime in the next century I'll see those results of that review. It's really tough sometimes to get them to go. And the marketing organization does what the marketing organization does. They go out and hire some expert from some AI consulting firm that I never heard of before last week, and suddenly that person's going to help them drive their strategy. And finally, the sales organization does what the sales organization does. They just start doing shit. They start trying to figure out, this is what we're going to do, we're going to do this, we're going to try this. And what happens is exactly what you would expect: a mess. You've got your data being shared across half a dozen AI startups. You've got no traction, and you've got no ability to drive results on that. What Mike and I are going to talk about today is a very tangible solution that we can help you guys bring to life. It takes a very specific use case and helps you live up to that promise of being a true data-driven organization. It starts with the concept of being a virtual junior analyst, and it works its way up to being an army of analysts, managers, and directors helping you drive your business to success.
In my daily activities with customers in the Agentic AI consulting practice at AnswerRocket, I get to see the results of that chaos, right? And I see lots of stalled projects. Everybody's in POC, nobody's rolling out. And so I get a chance to look under the hood and see in their architecture diagrams and their flows and their uses of the technology, I get to see where it is that they're stumbling, right? So these are some of the key areas that I see in many customers. Then there's always the specific ones. Things like hallucination, we're all familiar with that one, but then there's also really complicated issues like, how do I connect all my structured data safely into a language model? How do I evaluate whether this new model that just came out yesterday is as amazing as it's supposed to be? And how do I migrate to that when it's time to do so? Even the challenge of understanding where is the money is a big issue, right? This comes back to the ROI. What are the use cases that are going to be worth the money that I have to invest to get there? That's a big challenge for enterprises to understand when really all they've been able to do so far is just kind of get some demos going. So what's really happened? How do we get here? How do we get to this point, right? So it all started about 18 months ago when this RAG use case came out. RAG technology, fantastic technology for understanding how unstructured documents can be part of a chat conversation. It was a brand new thing you could do with AI, and nothing else could do it, and it unlocked a huge amount of value for the enterprise. So this easy, hey, I've got a question, let me run it through RAG and let me get you an answer, became the instant demo that all the boards saw, that everybody thought was fantastic, and we simply said, yep, I want more of that because that's a really cool thing, let's do it. Well, it's great until you need it to be truthful and consistent and reliable and accurate, right? Until you need to pull in structured data that's dynamic, that's not the same thing you did yesterday, until you want it to do math or be secure, right? So there are just a lot of problems if you consider RAG on its own, and especially if you don't consider that it truly is an enterprise software use case. To make something like RAG really be enterprise software, not only is it hard because it has these problems with hallucination and repeatability, but it's also hard because enterprise software is more complicated. I have to authenticate who that user is and give them access to the data. I have to know what question they're asking in the context of the data sources and in the conversation that I'm in. I have to ground their question into what I can really answer and what I can't really answer so that I can guardrail it. I have to be able to verify that it works. These are enterprise software applications after all. So I've got all the trouble that comes along with Gen AI and its uses, and I've got all the trouble that comes along with enterprise software, and it's no wonder that we end up in this stalled scenario where this use case that's wrapped around RAG of understanding unstructured data for chat conversations that doesn't really have an ROI on it becomes something that stalls out for lack of the right direction. And that just covers document search, right? So what about everything else that's out there? What about all the other things that we're trying to do with Gen AI? And how do I get there? How do I get to what my board is asking me for? So the pattern, that simple pattern of question to RAG to answer, evolves. It evolves in the framework of agentic AI to not just being questions coming from users, but it's really any task. It could be another software process that wants to perform a task. It could be something that happens on a schedule. It's not always a chat conversation. And instead of thinking of just LLMs and RAG, a vector database indexing your unstructured documents, you have to think of it much more dynamically. It's API endpoints, and it's models, and it's machine learning, and it's data processing, and it's data analytics, and it's structured data, and. It's a long list of knowledge that builds up these results. And finally, it doesn't just answer your chat question, it takes an action. It might log a request into a third-party service. It might change a price. It might send a briefing sometime later after it's had a chance to do this. These are actions that these models can take when you don't restrict them to that RAG use case, and instead you open up into the full agentic possibilities.
And so with this page, on the left side we've got RAG systems. Those are the word-based systems, and we've got AI agents. I'd like you to think about it a different way. I'd like you to think about it as people. On the left side, you've got analysts. On the right side, you've got your managers and directors, because that's what we're doing. I've been developing people for 25 years, teaching them how to do analytics. And an analyst, a RAG system, will follow a template. Give somebody a new challenge, I give them a template, I give them access to a limited data set, I ask them to solve a question. What's going on in California? Can they answer that question? Yes. Is it the most robust answer you've ever seen? Of course not. On the right side of the page is what I talk about when you go to a model that is more advanced. The agent-based model is more like a manager or a director. In this scenario, you ask them what's going on in California, and they pull from multiple data sources. They put together things in context. They talk about your strategy, and they assemble it in such a way that it's complete. And the benefit of that is that you get a more comprehensive answer. Now, in either scenario, would I send that information blind to my CEO or my board of directors without looking at it? Of course not. But by going down this route, you become 60, 70, 80, 90% better than you would have before. And so really, if I have a recommendation on anything on this presentation, take a picture of this slide, because your boss is going to ask you, but why aren't we getting more out of our LLM models? Why aren't we getting more out of the RAG system? And the answer is, it's because they are analysts, and we need to move our way towards directors. And that's what we're going to demo for you today, how you can get there.
So then the question is, if it's not just that RAG use case of letting me search through my documents, then what are the right use cases that I should be going for, right? What are the things that need to be done? And so we've got a few different ways of thinking about this. If you have a function that is chronically understaffed, maybe it's a help desk, maybe it's an analyst team, maybe it's some other back office, right? That is probably a great place to look at implementing Gen AI solutions that can drive some ROI, right? You may have some routine activities that are simply happening on a big scale, right? How can you improve those categorically by using language model capabilities and getting away from this notion of, hey, it's really good for chat and it's really good for making documents that people can read, and more into the mode of it's really good at being a robot that can automate a lot of the processes that I do for my business.
Yeah, the way I always think about it is this. If you can define a process, if you can teach a human how to do this, you can teach an AI how to do this. Does it require a little work? Sure, but we've got the ways to get you from here to there.
All right, so a lot of talk, but let's actually show a little bit of a demonstration here in just a second. Let me orient you about what this demonstration is doing. We're going to first show a chat agent, right? Something that in real time is interacting with me and helping me look through some structured data. But then we're going to switch over to a more complicated agentic task. In this case, we're going to ask it to perform a briefing. Not just go extract some data, not write me a SQL statement, right? Not summarize a document, but build a briefing based on real facts coming from a couple of different data sources and a couple of different websites, and coming from my business strategy. Now, when you use a language model from the factory, it got trained on the internet, and the internet doesn't know your strategy. So in this case, you're going to see a language model that's been empowered with the details of your strategic approach. It's basically looking at what are you trying to do in your business, what are the key levers, and how do you drive those levers the direction you want them to go. So you're making it aware, not just of the data up to the moment in real time from your data sources, or not just social media in real time from the internet, but you're letting it know how it is that you think about your business and what your goals are. You're really preparing it to be able to perform the function of an employee that would have been doing this work for you.
And the other thing that I would add to this is you're going to see in the model here that your clients, internal clients, are going to interact with the data in the way that they want to interact with the data. So I don't know about you guys, but I have a couple hundred scorecards in my life, and the top users of it tend to be my employees on my team who, when they get the phone call from sales or marketing or finance, they have to look up on their own page. And then we always have an initiative to teach people how to use the scorecards, and it never works. They never use them. What they want to do is they want to talk to somebody. They want to simply get an answer. They don't want a deep discussion about how you put the nail in the wall. They just want to hang a picture up. And that's what this interaction is going to do for you. So I'll let Mike take it from there.
Let's jump over. All right, so now I'm going to narrate this as it plays. You can come to our booth and see this live in action, but I'll just narrate as it plays here. So we're in a chat experience talking to a research agent, and its purpose is to do deep dive analysis, right? To sort of double click and triple click on down through drilling in and understanding data sources. Now, I'm going to ask a straightforward question up front, like an extract question. This is the kind of thing that might just go pull one set of data. I said, how are pasta sales trending? And so this is a chat agent. Again, not doing deep research for me. It's just going to go get me some facts. It shows me a time series for this, and it gives me some insights about what's going on. But again, this is a very shallow, very quick kind of interactive mode. I can follow it up with another question saying, oh, okay, break that out by brand. I want to know a little bit more about this data set, right? It's got sales data, it's got survey data, so tell me a little bit more about what's happening. And in this case, again, it goes and produces a visualization rather quickly for me that shows there's two big brands, looks like the house brands, private label, and then Barilla is the other big brand, and a bunch of little ones down beneath it. So now I could go continue asking these questions one at a time like I would going into BI tools, looking at reports. But instead, I'm just going to say, hey, why don't you prepare a briefing for me about this brand? And I turn on research mode, meaning I really want this to go to an agent that specializes in this task. So the very first thing it's going to do, it says, well, I'm going to spend some time on this. This is a big piece of homework you're giving me. So let me make sure that I really understand what you want. Now, So it's proposing to me here that this is the briefing for the briefing, if you will, right? The instructions for the briefing. Now, I would have configured in advance. I gave it my playbook. I told it, hey, when I'm researching a brand of pasta, I want to look at these specific data sources. I want to look at these specific time periods. I care about these specific attributes. So I gave it my strategy. It's not whatever the model came up with at the factory. It's combining that structured data with the playbook that runs my brand. I get to guide that a little bit. I said I want to focus on volume market share. I could have said I want to focus on California, or I wanted to focus on the top 3 categories, whatever I want to say. Now the model's going to take that and incorporate that into the plan, right? So it's going to give me back that plan that it had that's confirming, but it's going to go ahead and jump in and do that work, right? Because it's convinced that now it's pretty much got what I want to see. And I can notice there that it did see that it wanted to do that focus on volume share. And now it's going through and it's composed a list of reports. It's going to go run these for me. I don't have to go run each of them individually to find out the trend of survey results, or the trend of market share, or who my biggest competitor is. It's going to go run those individually one at a time, retrieve that data on my behalf, and then it's going to look and see if that data is even relevant to the question that I'm asking. If the results look interesting, it'll drill down. Maybe it'll find the outliers. Maybe it'll find the peaks in that data. It'll drill into it automatically. And then it's going to go through and actually, like in this case, I'm going to click on one of these reports, right? So I can see the actual facts that it's incorporating for that one line, and I can see, sure enough, it's bringing in a few key competitors, looking at how each of them were growing over time. It's an important part of the briefing, and it's got some insights in here. So now I can see that the model is really doing on its own a lot of legwork, right? So here, presto, we have the briefing completed. Normally this would take some number of minutes, and it's going to walk through and show you each of the sections that are in that briefing. I got to decide in advance the structure of this document. I said I want to see an overview of competitors. I want to understand volume share. I want you to break out the consumer survey results. So I guided it with my playbook about how to run the business. It did the legwork for me once I chose it. Now, as I scroll through all the sections, notice that once it gets to the bottom, here it identified some growth opportunities. So it's actually really tight down into the data, specific pack sizes, specific subcategories. And you can see that at the bottom, it's gotten all the way to conclusions and recommendations. And I don't know about you guys, but I've been talking about recommendations for a long time, and finally it's here. So what's happening? And here we went back to section 5 and we highlighted it. So first of all, you can see that the LLM actually understands the desired outcomes that I have, not what it learned at the factory, but it's got my playbook. It knows that I'm trying to drive volume share at the expense of maybe other KPIs. It also knows, in this case, what are some of the key threats that might be in my way. So not just what can I do to drive things forward, but what are some things that might threaten me along that process, right? And it's calling those out with references as we go. It's giving me really the ability to understand at a click of a button what's happening. And finally, I can see that it's got real actionable steps here, both tactical, things that I can do right away because they're one measure that drives another, and it's got strategic things that are going to take an initiative, that are going to take some budget and some planning to get done, right? And that's just in this one section of this brief as it's gone through and done this work. Now, this one section also included 7 different reports, right? So it didn't just stack up the results of 7 reports or 20 reports and dump them on me, right? Instead, it actually synthesized this work using the playbook, the goals that I have, and the details of my business, and it put this entire survey together and allows me to see how these measures interrelate, even if they're not joined in the database, right? I don't know a single business person that wants to join anything. They want it to happen for them, and that's what's going on here. The timeframes, the geographies, the brand names, all got assembled by the language model in the context of building this briefing, right? So now that I've got this completed document, I can forward it out, right? It's sort of self-defining. It tells me what it's all about, where the data came from. I can share this, but I can also talk to it. So the next thing I'm asking here is, where are we losing distribution? So I'm asking a question now, not in the context of the entire database, but since the report was suggesting that distribution is a problem and I need to address it, I can now talk to the report as though it were an expert. And when I share this out to others, they'll be able to do that as well, right? So they'll be able to have that ability. And notice that here I get a detailed answer with facts being cited. This is not model generated tables. These are tables that came out of a database that came out of an analysis that are hard facts. But I also can get very, very direct answers to the question, which in this case is saying, it looks like the problem is, I think it's Connecticut and New Jersey, and the 16-ounce flagship pack size.
New Jersey.
Yeah, there you go. New Jersey always, right? The last part here is a fact sheet, right? So the fact sheet now is the final stage, and its job is to verify that everything that the report just did came from real facts that are out there. So you can see that in this case, it's calling out a number of different areas, and every one of those is flagged as valid. If anything had been found to be invalid, meaning the report contained something that wasn't backed up by fact, number one, you wouldn't see the result at all. And number two, the fact sheet would show you where the problems were, right? Because this hallucination is a real problem, but like many things in AI, if you use more AI, you can actually overcome some of those core issues. Now, we still use code when code is appropriate because it allows you to kind of get to the bottom of that whole process. But the fact that I have my strategy being applied to a database, built into a briefing, which is then fact-checked for me by the language model, means that I've got a piece of reliable work that I can go forward with into my business.
And so what I would tell you about this is a couple things. I want to talk about what's same and what's different in your jobs in this world. First off, just like yesterday, in the future, you're still going to have to train and coach and quality check your employees, whether they're human employees or your virtual employees. That's never going to change. You have to do that. But this review, this comprehensive review of the pasta business, was something that I would typically give to one of my managers or junior directors, and I would give them a couple weeks, maybe a quarter, depending on how complex it was. The system did it in about 20 minutes. 20 minutes, and is it 100% perfect? Probably not, but I am so far down the line that I can hand that to my manager or director, and they can become wildly more productive. I can get more work done. So you get way more throughput, you get, but you still have to do those things that make you individually an expert.
Absolutely. So how does it all fit together then? When I showed you that workflow at the very beginning where I said, look, RAG's got a lot of problems, it's got to fit into an enterprise workflow, how do we avoid hallucinations? Well, now I've kind of made the problem even harder, right? Because I've said it's not just RAG, but you actually have to have, your web tools, you've got to have models, you've got to have things like other agents, this idea of text to SQL, that's kind of the thing that's right after RAG. These are all point solutions. They're not overall solutions to your enterprise AI strategy, the same way that chat is not an enterprise AI strategy. They're all parts of what needs to become the way that you really drive the ROI engine for Gen AI within your business. If you have this kind of an arc in place where you have an orchestrator that is coordinating the activities of all those different knowledge sources. You have a composer that's coordinating what goes back to users and what gets applied in the real world and fact-checking that before it's allowed to happen. If you build in humans into the loop to make it improve itself over time, to provide those points of accountability where humans are still going to remain accountable, then ultimately AI can become another enterprise piece of software that can be versioned, that can be managed, can be tested, it can be released on a cycle like all the other tools that we become dependent on. And this is really the architecture that we recommend in our daily consulting practice for our customers to take forward.
And so what I would think about this even further is think about how, again, what's changing versus what's staying the same. One of the things that I've been successful in 25 years of analytics is my ability to prioritize, to figure out where to put your money. I need to put it on the biggest brands. I need to put it on the biggest problem child. I got to give it to the biggest screamer in my organization to get things done. Because in 25 years of analytics, I've never had more than enough people to do the work. That just doesn't happen. And so what we're doing here is we're shifting that paradigm. What if not only you had the capacity to analyze your biggest brands, but all the way down to your smallest brands? What if you also had the capability to look at all of your markets from New York City all the way down to Fargo, North Dakota? Sure, a 10% improvement in New York City is better than a 10% improvement in Fargo, but why do you have to choose? This solution allows you to build out a virtual junior analyst, manager, or director and put it on your salespeople's, your marketing people's, your finance people, whoever's desk, and give them their own dedicated analysts to get things done. You no longer have to say, I've got 8 people, what crazy zone coverage am I going to come up with to get things done? You can now drive results and drive business. We promised you when we started this, it's a very practical solution that will drive results and make you look like a hero. This stuff actually works. And we put it in place at Diageo in a matter of weeks to stand up the first solution, and it's amazing. And so when you look at this space, there's probably some places you need to think about where this is going to work better than others. And the first 2 I definitely would say. Just like I said, you train your people. You teach people who have done stuff before. So if you have a system, a process, a template, a way of thinking about things, this is going to be a great tool for you. If you want to come up with things from scratch, you probably have to do a couple iterations to get there. If there's areas where you have resource gaps or skills gaps, this is a great tool to expand your capacity radically, and you're going to want to use it for that.
Yeah, and so then the other obstacle to look out for is projects that require a whole lot of early pre-work, right? So many organizations that I walk into say, yeah, we need to spend a year and a half working on our microservices, then we'll be ready. A year and a half is an eternity in the Gen AI world, right? Or yeah, if only my data were perfectly ready to go. We've spent 30 years trying to make our data perfectly ready to go, spending untold amounts of money on that. The language models don't need these things to be perfect. They don't need it to be excellent. They need it to be the same caliber that a human would need for it to start working. And you can use models to drive those results. The same thing applies to the idea of, well, how do I drive additional value from the work that I've already done? How do I reuse these assets, right? We're used to the idea of writing a report and using it for many different things. Well, in the Gen AI world, it can be very similar. You can create assets that, for example, integrate a language model with different parts of your organization. Maybe it's your HR documentation, maybe it's your customer service records, maybe it's your manufacturing data. When you integrate those for one AI use case, that becomes reusable across a lot of other AI use cases, right? So it's important to look for those opportunities to create that reuse that allows you to then sort of very quickly get from your first use case to your second, third, fourth, fifth. And then finally, situations where your partners are willing to commit to shared goals, right? This is basically looking across the organization saying, all right, what are the goals that IT has? What are the goals that the business has? What are the goals that finance has? All of those need to collaborate in order to make this thing come true, right? In order to make AI ready to go. If you're fighting against the goals of any one of those groups, then the whole thing's going to get delayed, and you're never going to get a chance to start that flywheel of ROI that your Gen AI solution can bring.
So here's the way I think about it. I hope you got some inspiration out of this presentation of what you can do. Think about this type of a timeline. If you want to work with us either in the alcohol space or in the general space, we can quickly get you up and running. 30 days, we can identify the best use case for you. We can launch a pilot in 2 to 3 months after that, and after that, you're making money. And you're gonna see your teams respond that, oh, this is so much better than we had before. And so again, this is a quick turn process to take care of a problem. We're not going to solve everything in the world. I have not found the AI to grow back my hair, but it's going to save one very specific problem of analytics and make it amazing for you.
And for us, really, the focus is on demonstrating that very first pilot launch solution that actually solves that business problem, right? So you identify the opportunity, you solve the problem, not in a way that's unsafe for the enterprise, not in a way that is going to go against your principles, but simply that solves a problem you could not solve before with AI or with technology in general. Identify that, get it stood up, get it working, get it demonstrated, so that now you're ready to start trying to scale it. And those scale opportunities really come by then incorporating all the other steps that you've seen today. Things like being able to verify the facts that are being shown, being able to reuse the assets that are being created across additional use cases, really taking the return that's come from one AI project and feeding that into investment to make the next 2 AI projects come together.
Once you have this system in place, you're not going to want to access any of your other data in any other way. You've got, over here, I'm doing this for our sales data, but over here, I got to click through a bunch of scorecards for market share. No way. This is going to become the way that your organization is going to want to interact with data. So you start simple, you nail that, you get success, and then people are going to want to wire stuff into it after that. More data, easy.
All right, thank you.